Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of BC Plus Live. I'm your host, Jeremiah, W9JAM, and tonight we're going to talk about trimming the fat from your code plug, how to take and go through and remove excess channels and zones that you don't need, or maybe you borrowed a friend's code plug, thought it was great, and it's saying that, it's too much for the radio that you've got. Like maybe you've got one of the original 878s and you're having some issues getting the code plug to load from your friends because it's a 878 UV2 plus code plug. So we're going to go through a few things that you can do to simplify that. For our YouTube members, thank you for being here tonight. We are going to take and go through the super code plug itself to show that as far as how to trim the fat off of that. And then for our BC Plus members, we will be taking and going through a version of the Ultra Code plug that has some of my own customizations to it to trim the fat off of that. So give me 1 second. Let me get my camera recentered here because it's a little off kilter on my screen. Sorry, I was moving stuff around earlier. So first, a few shout outs. Hello to Dr. Greg from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and hello to Larry, KF5MLP, Dan, KJ7RUH, Bill, AC6SP, Jonathan, 87NY, Chuck, KJ7ETZ, Rob, KC3WUT, James, Jerry, KQ4, BRJ, Mark, and Kurt, just to name a few. Also, hello to Tracy, N2LBL, and Don, WB4UBK. So thank you guys for being here tonight. And also, hello to Nick, KC3IRC. So if you have any questions, please try and hold them for about the 25, 30-minute mark. I will try and answer them. I just want to make sure I get everything in the correct order. So with that, let's go ahead and pull up the Codeplug software for the 878 with a blank copy of the super code plug in it that hasn't been modified yet. So I can show you guys what we need to do here. So let me share that screen. All right. Can you guys see the CPS screen? I know it may be a little small for some of you guys. Greg, I think either you or Larry knows this one. Let me try and get the chat pulled back up here where I can see it. How do I get this to zoom in on Zoom? Because I've tried it before and it wouldn't let me. Do you remember what I need to press? Okay. Control plus. Okay, let's see if that works. Looking at my other screen, see if it zooms in. Okay, it may not like it on my computer for some reason. That's odd. Portion of screen. There we go. Okay, that should pull up here in just a second. Give me 1 second here. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is make sure we have a backup of our code plug. And what we're going to do for that is we're actually going to come over here to File, Save As, and in your normal window, it's going to take and have a pop-up where it asks you to save the location. So I'm just going to put today's date behind the original file name. So 11-21-23, or excuse me, 24. See, we were talking about going back in time earlier, and there we are. All right. So save file, okay. And then I'm going to go to Tool, Export, and then I'm going to select Export All. And what this is going to do is it's going to make an LST file. And I'm just going to choose today's date, 11-21-24, and test LST. And there's the file list extension. So I'm going to click Save. Then Yes. And then it's going to sit there like it's not doing anything. But what it's actually doing is it's creating a CSV file for each one of these buttons right here. So your channel, your radio list, your zone, your scan list, your analog address book, talk groups, digital contact list, prefabricated SMS, FM, receive groups, 5-tone, 2-tone, DTMF, all of these. It's making a CSV file for each one of those. And then the LST file will be a rundown of each one of those. So when this is done, it'll say export OK, and I'll have an OK button to click on. All right. Okay. So something that Greg pointed out, 3.04 does include optional settings, but it does not include your key functions. You'll still have to set up your keys manually when you're doing an export. If you're using the same exact radio and all of your key functions are already set up, yes, actually, it is very typical for it to say not responding while it's making all of these because it's a single-threaded program, James. And see, now we've got the export complete. Click OK, and it closes the window for us. So now, that list file that pulls up, and let me pull this back up here so you guys can see this. Here is the list file that it made, the one with the word test right here. And if I open this in Notepad, I can just click Open With and tell it to open it in Notepad. It'll give us a list of everything that all the tabs that it exported. Our channel, our radio ID, zone, scan list, everything. And you'll notice it says .csv. Now, digital contact list, that's what takes the longest part of the export process. So if you've updated your digital contact list recently, that'll be what's taking so long for it to export. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to go to Open Office. So I'm going to tell it to go to LibreOffice. And whoops. Come on. I'm going to go to File, Open. And then because I'm on the L drive, 878 export, and then I'm going to choose my channel file. Now, it's going to ask me what character set that I'm going to do this with. This is something specific to LibreOffice. Excel doesn't ask you to do this, or at least it's never asked me. But for character set, we want to make sure we choose UTF-8. And then we can uncheck tab and semicolon. We just want the commas. All right, click OK. And then here's the inside of our channel list for our code plug. Now, something that the eagle-eyed viewers may notice is we jump from 15 to 17, and there's no 16 here on our channel numbers. That's because when it imports this into the 878 software, the 578 software, or the 168 software, that number being missing indicates a space in our channels. And that's how we separate our channels so we can organize them into zones. So for me, right here, 1 through 15 is my Skybridge zone. And then 17 through, I believe it's 52, maybe 60? 17 through 68 is going to be my US 50 states zone. And then we skip number 69 and start at 70, and that's our NOAA zone. So 70 through 76 is NOAA. And then 78 all the way down to 173 is going to be our international zone. So this will be all of the DMR talk groups for international locations. Now, you'll notice that United States is still here. We're going to delete this, but it's still in our code plug. So don't panic yet. It's still there. Basically, what I want to do is trim this code plug up some because I don't do anything with international. So I'm going to get rid of 78 all the way down to 173. And then I'm also going to get rid of 175 through 179 and 181 to 186. And we're going to leave the 4000 and 4002 because those are our VFO start channels when we switch to VFO mode on the radio. We're just going to leave those and then move them up with the numbers that are over on this side. So let me show you what I'm going to do here. I'm going to come down here below NOAA. I'm going to hold down Shift and page down. And when I get almost to the end, I'm going to switch over to using the down arrow. And then I'm going to do right arrow over till I get to the very end, where I don't have any data anymore. It'll be the end of my zeros, which should be line or column Bravo Delta, BD. Okay. Then I'm just going to press delete, and that gets rid of them. Now, we have all this blank space here. We need to move up the other ones so they are in the bottom of that list. Otherwise, we'll get an error. So I'm going to press and hold Shift, down arrow, and then right arrow to go all the way over again to column BC. I'm going to press down my Control key and the letter X, or you can right-click and click Cut. That works too. And then we're going to go all the way back up to line 76. You'll notice we have line 75 says line 76. That's fine. Line 76 is where we're going to paste the other information. So I'm going to right-click. I'm going to click Paste. And then I'm going to click Save. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Open again. And this time I'm going to go to my zones. Open. It's going to ask me again. I'm going to choose UTF-8. Click OK. And you'll notice the international and my favorites are here, but everything that we want to keep is in 1, 2, and 3 on our numbers. We don't want to keep 4 and 5 in my case. So all I need to do is highlight these and delete it. And then click Save. Now, so I don't have to re-import everything, and we can go ahead and close that out because I don't want to re-import all of those files it just made, all those CSV files. what I'm actually going to do is come over here to Tool, Import. We get this pop-up window. We're going to click OK. And then there's another window that pops up. If you have one computer screen, it'll pop up on that screen. If you've got multiple like I do, it sometimes pops up on a different screen. So you may have to look over at one of your other screens to find it. But I'm going to choose my channel file, which is going to be the one I just edited. Double click it. And then I'm going to go to my zone file. Scroll to the bottom, click zone. And then I'm going to click import. And you'll notice we didn't get any errors. We're okay now. Now on my channel list, if I go page down, we'll see that all the rest of those channels are gone. So it cleaned those up for me. Now, if you have zones and you're deleting channels, like let's say you want to get rid of the United States, 50 states here, but you want to keep NOAA, what you're going to have to do is you're actually going to have to recreate your NOAA zone because it'll actually cause an issue with reloading stuff. So for this, we start out in our channels and we've already done our import of the channel and the zones. So all of our channel stuff is here. Greg, good point. You can click on the row number. It'll highlight the entire row and then just press the delete key or right click and select delete. Sorry, guys. Greg knows a lot of Excel shortcuts, and I'm so used to doing things the hard way because I've done it that way for so long. So Greg is the Excel expert. I just muddle my way through it. All right. So let's say that I got rid of my 50 state zone. What I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to right click on it, click delete. And then I can recreate my zones because all I have to do is look for that number jump between the two numbers. And that tells me that this is the beginning of a new zone. So I can click here and then shift down arrow until I get to where the next number jump is. I know it's after Wyoming, so and we'll see we have 68, then it jumps to 70. So we know that 68 is the end of the zone. And then I can just press the right arrow over. And I wanted to start on USA or US nationwide, which is Talk Group 3100. And then I'm just going to type in US 50 states. I'll click OK. And then I'll come back to line 3, and I want that one to be my NOAA. So I'll go ahead and type in NOAA. Scroll down, click on line 70 here, shift down arrow to highlight all of them, and then move it over. And I want it to start on 1, so I'll put it on 1 and click OK. Then I can go ahead and configure this code plug the rest of the way for me. In this case, I would need to put my radio ID in, which is under digital, then radio ID list, and you'll see it's got the default 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then name and call sign. This will auto update on your channels as long as you edit number 1. That'll auto update. So let's say for some reason you end up with a new DMR ID or you need to change your call sign in your radio. This is where you would actually click to update to add it. So for me, it'd be Jeremiah, W9, JAM, and then 320-6400. Click OK. And then when I go back to channels, see if you guys can see that, radio ID, it changed from name and call sign to showing my name and call sign. Now, optional settings. On power on, when it selects custom character, that's where you can put in your information here. And it actually lets you put in your name, your call sign, your DMR ID, a phone number if somebody finds your radio and turns it on so they can call you and say, hey, I found your radio. whatever you want to put here. And that's on your power on tab under optional settings. All right. Now, default startup channel. I actually usually have mine on, and usually on Skybridge Zone, and always on Parrot for me, because I don't use any of the local repeaters around here. So I put it on Parrot because I use my hotspot just to make sure that, I'm connecting to Brandmeister's network and Parrot's working. And as long as I haven't messed with any of my talk group numbers assigned to any of my channels, then I know that everything should be working if Parrot's working. GPS startup test. I leave this off because I normally don't have the 878 in the car with me. And unless I'm having issues with the GPS, there's no reason for me to have this on. Startup reset. This one's important. If you are taking and writing new firmware to your radio and you can't get it to do the MCU reset where you press and hold the push to talk button and the button right under the push to talk button on the side of the radio, it just says booting and then boots to the main screen. You need to read your radio, then go to optional settings, and then change this from off to on and write it back to the radio. And then you'll be able to do your MCU reset to initialize the radio. And that way the new firmware update will work. So let's just go ahead and put this in for me, Jeremiah, and then W9JM. If your radio ever asks you for a password, and this is a big tip for you guys, when you turn it on, if it ever asks for the password, leave it on the password screen. Don't turn it back off. Leave it on the password screen. Connect your programming cable, and then connect it to the computer. Let it sit for a few minutes while it's on that password screen. What'll happen is you'll see it populate your COM port after a few minutes. When it populates the COM port, you can click the COM port to select it, click OK, and then read the radio. Then you can go back to your optional settings. Whoops. Go back to optional settings, go here to power on and turn power on password off and write that to the radio, and that will disable that power on password. So you don't have to worry about getting stuck again, where you can't get into your radio because you don't know what password it's set. I've seen a few people where they've wrote a brand new code plug that one of their friends gave them, and then the friend doesn't remember what the password is. And it's like, oh, okay. How do we get around that? That's how you get around it. Just plug in your programming cable, let the radio sit on that screen for a few minutes, and then it'll populate your COM port on your computer, read the radio, come over here to optional settings. You'll get your optional settings box, click power on, and then turn power on password off. Then click OK, and then write it back to your radio. Pardon me 1 second here. Sorry about that. Okay. So now that we've got that done, we can actually take and write this to the radio if we want. And that'll take and have that code plug nice and trimmed up for us. We don't have any extra fat in it. We've just got, our Skybridge zone, our 50 states, and our weather channels. So that's how you can trim up a super code plug or another code plug that you just need to get the extra stuff at the bottom of the code plug out. In the next section that we'll be starting here in about 5 minutes for the BC Plus members, we will be going through how to edit the stuff that's in the middle of the code plug without running into a bunch of headaches. So let me turn off my screen share here. If it'll let me, maybe. Okay. If anybody has any questions on Zoom, at the bottom of your Zoom window, you should have a raise hand that you can click on, and I'll be able to call on you. Hopefully I didn't go too fast for anybody. All right, Dan's shaking his head no, so I'll assume that's a good sign. All right. Well, with that, for our BC Plus members, don't forget there is the giveaway drawing tonight. You'll win a prize off the prize wall if you are the lucky winner. For everybody who has been inquiring, the update from AnyTone is that the 168s that were supposed to be in our hands already to ship out are supposed to be shipping from the factory tomorrow. They found some issues with the production line, and they were making sure that they went through every single radio before they shipped that was for our inventory to make sure that if there was an issue, if one of those radios had an issue, they got it taken care of before it became an issue for the customer. So once we get those, we will be shipping those out. I am still working on the 168 training course as well as the quick start guide. I should have the quick start guide done Sunday night. So I know a lot of people have been asking about that. Again, I apologize. Between the new firmware update that came out, and yes, the quick start guide will be showing how to update your firmware as well as the baseband on your 168, because they included a new baseband for the new processor too. So with that, if nobody has any questions, there is no BC Plus next week because of Thanksgiving. We are taking Thanksgiving off, as well as let me double check here on the dates that we are not going to be here. We are not here New Year's Day, which seems about right. And then we are going to be here Monday, December 23rd, but we will not be in Tuesday and Wednesday, December 24th and 25th. And we are off on January 1st, but we will have an episode of BC Plus for January 2nd. So I don't know if I'll still have the party hat on for the new year, but we'll see. Anyway, with that, if anybody doesn't have any questions, I will go ahead and let our BC Plus members grab something to drink real quick if they want before we start the next section. And looks like Timothy's got a question. Go ahead and unmute Timothy. And what is the question?
Okay. Just wanted to introduce myself since you're letting everybody go. I figured I'd come in real quick and introduce myself. I was one of the originals way back when, and I never could afford the radio, so I just finally just gave up on it because I was learning a lot about nothing. And
Okay.
it was good to see. I can't think of his name from Oklahoma.
Jeremy?
Yeah, Jeremy. It was good to see Jeremy again. But I did catch him just the other day. But I'm from way back, and boy, he got old. Haven't we all? Anyway, I'll go back to the 70s, not 80s. No, 70s are better, even if they did have disco. Anyway, nice meeting you. Nice seeing you. And hopefully you'll find me on here a lot more often.
Okay, well, welcome aboard. Glad to have you. If you have an idea for a show topic you would like to see covered in the future, you can actually email us at bcplus@bridgecomsystems.com, and we will take and see what we can do to make that happen. So, again, everybody on YouTube, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for joining us. And if you've got any suggestions as well for show topics you'd like to see us cover, please email us at bcplus@bridgecomsystems.com. Those emails do come directly to me. So And that email is specifically for show suggestions, comments, stuff like that. If you need to submit a support ticket, please visit support.bridgecomsystems.com. And if you want to find out more information about the BC Plus program, make sure that you check out bridgecomsystems.com, click on BridgeCom University, and click on BridgeCom Plus. So for YouTube, I'm Jeremiah, W9JM 73.